If you've been thinking about upgrading your home here in Hugo, but you're worried your monthly payment is going to jump way more than you're comfortable with, you're not alone. This is probably the biggest hesitation I hear from homeowners who are thinking about making a move. Because it's not just about getting a bigger house, it's about what that actually feels like month to month. Your payment, your lifestyle, your comfort level. And most people go into this assuming if we upgrade, our payment is going to go way up. And yeah, sometimes it does, but not always in the way people expect. And a lot of that comes down to the move and how it is structured. The biggest mistake I see is people starting in the wrong place. They look at what they're approved for, or they ask, how much more can we afford? But approval doesn't mean comfort. Just because a lender says you can afford a certain number doesn't mean you're going to feel good about that payment every single month. So instead of starting there, the better question is, what would actually feel comfortable for us? What payment fits your life? Because that's what you're going to live with, not the purchase price, the payment. Once you have that number in mind, then everything else starts to make more sense, because now we can build around it. And this is where things usually shift, because you already have something working in your favor, your equity. If you own your home for a few years, there's a good chance you've built up more equity than you realize. And that equity becomes your down payment on the next home, which directly impacts your monthly payment. So instead of guessing, we can actually map this out. What your home would realistically sell for, what you'd walk away with, and what that turns into for your next purchase. And when you actually see the numbers, that's when things get clearer. Because sometimes the payment jump isn't as big as you thought. And in other cases, you realize you can move up more than you expected without stretching yourself too far. I had a conversation with a homeowner near Hugo who was holding off on upgrading because they assumed their payment would jump too much. That was the assumption. But once we walked through their numbers, what they'd likely net from their current home and what different price points looked like on a monthly basis, they stopped halfway through and said, wait, this actually makes more sense than we thought. And that's usually the moment things click. Not because the market changed, but because they finally saw the full picture. Another thing that helps here is looking at a few different scenarios, not just one number. What does this look like at one price point versus another? How much does your payment actually change between those? Because sometimes a $50,000 or $75,000 difference in purchase price feels a lot bigger than it actually is on a monthly basis. And other times, it's more than you're comfortable with. But you don't know until you see it. That's why guessing tends to keep people stuck. Clarity is what moves you forward. The other piece to keep in mind, you don't need your payment to stay exactly the same. That's not usually realistic, but it also doesn't need to feel like a stretch. There's a middle ground, and that's really the goal. You want the move to feel intentional. Like, this makes sense for where we're at in life, not this feels like a risk every month. Because once you move, that payment becomes your new normal, and you want that to feel comfortable. That's what Buy and Sell with Boyice Williams and eXp Realty is built around, helping you understand your numbers before you make a move, so you're not guessing or second guessing it later. So if you're in Hugo or in the Northeast Twin Cities and you've been thinking about upgrading, but you're not sure what that would really look like for your payment, message me Move. I will walk you through your numbers and show you a few different scenarios so that you can see exactly what this could look like. No pressure, just clarity. Because you don't need to guess, you just need to understand your options.